Good afternoon. My name is Melissa, an MPH student at Benedictine University, and I'm here with Christine from the University of Maryland talking about emergency preparedness and mental health. Thank you for taking the time to answer a few questions with me today.
Thank you, Melissa.
First question is, what are some of the most frightening areas in regards to disaster management, emergency response, and possibly handling terrorist activities?
So since I work primarily in public health emergency preparedness, I'm going to have to go with, public health emergencies, disease outbreaks, whether they be, naturally occurring or bioterrorism, I think, are some of the most frightening, possibilities that we could have. We do have a fairly robust public health infrastructure in the United States, but there are scenarios in which I believe it could be quite easily stressed, and we would be unprepared to handle it effectively.
How well is this community, hospital, or local area prepared to handle a disaster or public health event?
So I work primarily in the National Capital Region, as opposed to Baltimore, and that question is hard to, actually, now that I think it's hard to answer. I think we do have a very strong, so it's Region 5, that's the sort of the health, the hospital preparedness region that we fall into. That includes Prince George's County, Montgomery County, and the southern Maryland counties. And I think that there are very strong healthcare coalitions and really good relationships. And we're also blessed, of course, because it's the National Capital Region, to have essentially access to a lot of resources, money, personnel, things of that nature. So I think that we're very prepared, but we could always be more prepared. And depending on what the disaster is, some novel issue, we may not be as prepared as we'd like.
What are some of the possible trainings you would suggest that community become involved with?
Well, my boss likes to say, my boss is a retired firefighter, so he always likes to say that you are your own first responder. And so any first aid, CPR classes, AED classes, of course with the opioid overdose epidemic, training on administering Narcan and things of that nature would all be incredibly helpful. Basic life safety classes, as well as maybe even volunteering, become a volunteer EMT. I think all of those would be incredibly helpful for people in their everyday lives.
Where do you see emergency management, public health, or disaster preparedness within the next 5 years?
I think there's some really interesting things happening right now in emergency management. I think we're moving towards more evidence-based practice, which has not always been the case. Over the course of emergency preparedness history, it's sort of been a reactionary field, of course, as it's had to be. But recently we've been better at incorporating technologies and sort of being proactive in determining what the best practice is in certain circumstances are. So I think we're moving that direction.
Who do you consider to be some of the key stakeholders in the community, and why do they play such an integral role in emergency preparedness?
So I think a lot of people, when they think of emergency management, it's automatically, first responders, you have law enforcement, you have fire, you have EMS, and those people, of course, are key. But then you have everybody else sort of in the spectrum that support those folks. Everyone in local healthcare coalitions, so that's hospitals and other healthcare providers. And you also have, of course, local health departments, and rising up on state and local levels, all of those people as well. But then people don't usually think about policy makers, the key decision makers, In the counties, it's the county executives. In the city here, it's the mayor and the city council, and those people. Those people play key roles, as we've seen in Baltimore. Recently with some of our history there, but without those people taking a strong lead and interest before something terrible happens, the community won't be as prepared as it could be.
I don't know. Thank you for taking time out to answer questions, and appreciate that.